Oh, beautiful, Jeff. Thank you. And remember, you can get his brand baby new CDs out in the lobby after. And but don't buy them all because I'm getting one, and I may not make it out there first, so save me one. Tim, can you just turn this down just a wee bit? It feels a little loud to me. Thanks. I want to acknowledge Tim Salmon's in the booth. You would think that this would be an easy thing. We've had this beautiful AV board back there, but there are 4 congregations who meet here. And as well as Beth Evergreen having all sorts of special events, and there was a memorial here last night, and so every congregation has different settings, different mics, different hookups, different everything. So we never know what we're going to find when we walk in. We were here for the pet blessing yesterday, and I looked in, everything looked great, and then clearly there was an event here last night, because everything was all different when we walked in this morning. So anyway, thank you, Tim, for your patience and expertise on all of this. We did have a pet blessing yesterday, and it was fabulous. To those of you who volunteered, thank you. I have some amazing people here helping, and to those of you who brought your babies, it was so sweet. We counted about 30 dogs here at the height, and it was wonderful. No kitties, no horses, no birds. So next year, we'll have to, expand our inclusivity of our animal kingdom. So, but it was wonderful, and I have 3 dogs myself, 2 of which don't shed. So I stupidly wore black pants yesterday. And then after petting all 30 dogs, I got home and went, ruh-oh. Anyway, it was a wonderful event. So my topic today, what good is gratitude? What good is gratitude? We hear it all the time, and you thought you should be grateful, keep a gratitude journal, don't forget to give thanks. I know that you're in the thick of despair right now, but think about gratitude. And you know those perky little people who come and tell you that you should be grateful for some catastrophe that's just hit your life? Don't you want to just smack them? I mean, they can be really annoying. And yet, gratitude is one of those things that really does have a transformative power. And I think that it's appropriate here in the month of Thanksgiving that we talk about gratitude. And so it seems to me that gratitude is something we all know we should feel and rarely do. And so I wanted to talk about that in particular today. So Thanksgiving as a holiday is at the end of this month. We all know the story of the first Thanksgiving, right? The Pilgrims came over and they didn't have enough to eat, and then the Indians helped them, and so that the next year on the harvest they had a big feast, and we all know that story, right? You learned it in 4th grade or whatever, and I've heard it every year since. That's a very cool story. Here's the story I find more interesting. Thanksgiving was not an official holiday until 1863. So the Pilgrims came in 1607. 1863 is when it becomes an official holiday. So for those of you American history buffs, what's going on between 1860 and 1865 in the United States? Anyone know? Civil War. The midst of the Civil War. Abraham Lincoln, right after the Battle of Gettysburg on October 3rd, 1863, he signs into law that there will be a national holiday to give thanks. So this is a secular government signing into secular law, mandating that the population will practice the very spiritual practice of gratitude one day a year. The timing of that's interesting too, because he does it right after the Battle of Gettysburg, when the North is falling apart. Nobody has enough to eat. Every supply is going to the war. People have lost brothers, husbands, fathers in amazing numbers. I mean, the Battle of Gettysburg alone had over 50,000 casualties. Just the Battle of Gettysburg. So, by method of comparison, there were 58,000 dead in the whole Vietnam War. So that should give you a little comparison there for the Battle of Gettysburg. And so in the midst of this, as people are grieving and struggling, what does Abraham Lincoln do? He mandates that we give thanks. Now, I have this secret belief that I'm going to someday write a book about when I have time, that Lincoln was a major transcendentalist, and that the Gettysburg Address is really a spiritual mind treatment, but that's a different talk. But I find it profound that in the midst of this, Lincoln has the insight and the to sign Thanksgiving into a holiday. Why would he do that? Because he knew what good gratitude is. He knew that the only way to shift our collective consciousness as a nation was to stop focusing on the horrors of war and look at the good. And I think he also recognized how hard that was, which is why he made it a law. Now, of course, you can't mandate consciousness, but he certainly gave a strong suggestion by putting it into law the 4th Thursday of November. And then, as a little side note, he did give his famous Gettysburg Address on November 19th, 1863, which I looked up was exactly 1 week before the first official Thanksgiving. So, what good is gratitude? Well, first, it shifts our attention. It shifts our attention from what's wrong. So one of the basic premises of New Thought is change your thinking, change your life, right? We've heard that a million times. It's become a cliche. Change your thinking, change your life. And its corollary, whatever we focus on expands. Whatever we focus on expands. So if our attention is always on what's wrong, what's going to happen? It's going to expand. But if we consciously shift our attention to what's right, it's going to expand. Now, anybody hear that for the first time just now when I said it? I'm guessing no. I'm guessing we've all heard that before. This is a practice. This is a practice that we need to do consciously. We can know it, but knowing it doesn't make us do it. But by shifting our attention, it shifts everything else, including our physical bodies. There was a man named Robert, I forgot his first name for a minute, Robert Emmons, PhD at the University of California at Davis. And he did a study, and he took a group of people and he asked them for 10 weeks to write down 5 events in their life every week. So 1/3 of the group, he had them only write down 5 positive events. And at the end of every week, they were to write down 5 things that happened that were good. And then he took another 1/3 of the group and he had them write down 5 negative events that had happened that week in their life. And then, because he kind of was anticipating the criticism that he was just making them be more conscious of what was happening in their life, whether it was good or bad, he took a 3rd group and he just asked them to write down 5 significant events, good or bad, that happened in their life. And at the end of 10 weeks, what he found was that the group that wrote down the 5 positive things that happened in their life, they were 25% happier, and he had this whole criteria of how he measured happiness as far as things like, well-being, number of times you laugh a day. I mean, he had a scientific criteria he'd come up with for happiness. 25% happier than either of the other 2 groups. They had fewer health complaints and exercised on average of 1.5 hours more per week than the other 2 control groups. By shifting our attention to what's right, we get more of what's right working in our lives. And it actually can change our body chemistry, which I'll talk about more in a second. In the classes that we're teaching here Monday and Tuesday nights, we just this last week talked about a program that we call the Unexpected Income Program. And the Unexpected Income Program is where we ask people to tithe on their unexpected income. And so unexpected income would be like someone takes you out for a cup of coffee and you intended to buy your own coffee, but someone else buys it for you. So you just had, $3 or depending if it's Starbucks, $5 worth of unexpected income. And so you would tithe 50 cents on that. And the way the program works is that you agree to write down your unexpected income every time it happens for a week. And at the end of the week, you add that up and you tithe to wherever your spiritual support is on that amount. Now, the reason for that is not to raise money. Although, that's a happy side effect. But the purpose of that is to bring our awareness to the good that comes into our life that we totally take for granted. Now, I gave this example. A couple weeks ago, we had some friends visiting from the United Kingdom. Steve and I had every intention of taking them to brunch. We were going to show them off a little bit, show them a beautiful place up here in Evergreen. We had every intention of doing it. It was our treat. We made the reservations. We took them out to brunch. They ended up picking up the tab, and no amount of arguing would let us pay. So that's great. At the time, I was so grateful. I gave them a big hug, and I thanked them both, and I was sincere. And we got in the car, and as we were driving away, we said, "Wasn't that nice? That was so nice." And then I forgot course, great, they bought lunch, awesome. And we forget about it. We don't live in that mindset of gratitude all the time. It's just an event. So by focusing on it, it shifts our attention to what's good instead of what goes wrong. And yet, how many of us have had something go wrong? Car breaks down unexpectedly, or a bill comes through that you don't think about, or you get a health something, like a little mole that doesn't look good or whatever. And how many of you worry about it all day long? It's just on your mind all the time, all the time, all the time. You can't get it out of your mind. You just can't, it's just there. You can't forget, it's just right there. And you go do something else and you think, well, my life would be so good if I didn't have that little mole, or if I didn't have that bill to pay, or if right? So we focus on the negative like this all the time. We're almost obsessed with it. But someone buys you a cup of coffee or lunch and you're like, oh, thank you. But I have this little mole. By staying in the gratitude, it shifts our attention. And by shifting our attention, everything else falls into place. More good starts to come. So that's one good of gratitude, shifts our attention. Second, it shifts our emotional state. This is the next logical outcome of shifting our attention. It shifts our emotional state. We are generators, not reactors. I think many of us go through our lives reacting. Something good happens, we feel gratitude. Something bad happens, we feel upset. Something good happens, we feel happy. Something bad happens. We wait for the cue outside of us to dictate how we're going to feel. So we have a great interaction with someone, we're happy. We have a difficult interaction with someone, we're upset. We get a raise at work, we're happy. We have an unexpected bill, we're upset. We're reacting to our circumstances. The truth is, we are the life of God living on this planet. Always, 100% of the time, regardless of the external conditions. There is a love within us that is the truth of who we are, that can never be damaged or diminished in any way, shape, or form. And when we get in touch with that and project it outward, it doesn't matter what else happens out here. We are then the generator of good. We are the generator of love. We are the generator of prosperity. We are the generator of peace. We are the generator of joy. And we don't have to wait for the conditions out here to change. Well, how do we remember that? Gratitude. That is the emotion of God. When you feel love and appreciation for everything around you, you are feeling in alignment with God. That is what that God life feels all the time. We hear this in New Thought, God is within us, there's no external God out there, God is within, right? How do we know? I've had many days where, well, if God's within me, he's asleep. Because I got no clue that there was anything. Because I have pinched myself off by thinking that my external circumstances are what's real, and that there isn't something greater within me. But when I can get quiet, this is why we say meditation, I am not a huge meditator. It's a real struggle for me to really sit and meditate, because for the longest time it was just concerted worrying for me. But when I can actually just stop thought and be still, usually I can't be still, I have to be hiking, so I'm not still, but my mind is. I can feel better. I can feel into that place of gratitude. I can feel into that place of love. And so that shifts our emotions, and that then causes the domino effect of everything else. I want to tell you the story of a woman named Evie McDonald. Evie McDonald was diagnosed in 1980 with Lou Gehrig's disease. And basically, this is a death sentence, the doctor gave her 6 months to live. So Evie had polio when she was younger, and so she had 2 withered limbs. So she always hated her body, because, she'd have these deformed limbs, and she really struggled with that. And then, on top of it, she was overweight most of her life, and so she just was always at war with her body. And so now her body declared war back at her, and she was diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease. She got to thinking that if she only had 6 months to live, and she was confined to a wheelchair, that she wanted to die at peace. She didn't want to be in this upheaval, and she didn't really have anything else she could do. So she decided to make peace with her body. So she started this exercise where she would get undressed and wheel herself in front of a mirror in her wheelchair. And at first, the only thing that came up was this horrible negativity. And so she decided to write it all down and own it. So she wrote down every negative feeling and thought she ever had about herself and her body. She made this long list, this long list of everything she hated about her body. And then when that was done, she set it aside. The next day, she decided she was going to go to the mirror, and she made herself sit there for 20 minutes. She had to actually set a timer because she felt like it was 20 minutes, and she'd look at the clock, they were like 3. But she made herself sit there until she could come up with one good thing that she could say about her body. And of course, she started with something like, well, I guess I have okay eyes. My eyes are kind of pretty. You know, she could get something pretty easy, you know. So she got there, but she made herself do this every day. And she started to write it down. And of course, the negativity would come back up. You know, she'd say, well, you know, I like my eyes. But I hate this, and I hate that, and I don't like this, and I don't. Sound familiar to anyone? Anyone ever had that experience? Well, you know, I guess my earlobes aren't too bad. But anyway, so she does this every day for 6 months, and she feels a shift. At the end of 6 months, she feels at peace. She wheels herself up. The negativity's gone. She just feels the difference. The only thoughts she has now are gratitude and compassion for her body. Now, it takes her 6 months of doing nothing else but this, but she does it. And so she feels that shift in her heart, and she thinks, okay, I found it. I found peace. I found peace. Here's the amazing thing. A few months later, she starts to get strength back in her hands. She starts to get, her limbs start to be able to move again. Within another 6 months, she's out of the wheelchair. What good is gratitude? And then she wrote 14 years later, I just found this out today, Mary and I were Googling it this morning. In 1994, she co-wrote a study on this and the power of gratitude and unconditional love in healing. So, what good is gratitude? It shifts her emotional state. She wasn't going after this to heal her body. She wanted to feel peace. And the minute she felt peace, her body started to heal. So gratitude shifts our emotional state, but this is a conscious process. Again, we have to seek it out. We can't react to what's out there and wait for something out here to make us feel grateful. We have to stop and feel grateful first. And then what happens is that we see things that have been there all along that we didn't notice because we weren't vibrating at the level of gratitude. So we are the originators, not just the reactors. And then the last thing that gratitude does is it shifts our relationships. It shifts our relationships. We all know that when we do something nice for someone else and they thank us, we want to do it again. Have you ever gone out of your way to do something nice for someone and they didn't even acknowledge it or notice it? And I mean, you don't want to be petty. I know for me, it's like, well, I don't want to be petty. So I'll be the bigger person and take the high road here, you know, and just know that they really meant to thank me, but just forgot. But then when they ask again, I'm not overwhelmingly excited to go help them again, right? I mean, have we had this experience, you know? But then the time you do something and someone's like, oh, thank you. I know that was probably a real pain for you, and I really appreciate you going out of your way like that. We kind of get embarrassed, like, it was nothing. But it feels good. It feels good. So when you're in a relationship with anyone, if you can find things to be grateful for in the relationship, the whole relationship shifts. Another study by a doctor named John Gottman, he studied couples. And John Gottman can tell you within 3 minutes of an interaction if a couple will stay together or not, just by watching how they interact with one another. And what he found in 15 years of studying couples is that for every negative comment that one partner says to the other, so a put down, an insult, a frown, even a frown, or some insensitive comment making fun at the other's expense, for every one, it takes 5 positive comments to maintain equilibrium in the relationship. 5 expressions of gratitude to maintain equilibrium in the relationship. So, if you're in a position where you're taking your partner for granted and you think they're they're just going to be there day after day and that you can rage at them or be upset with them and they should just forgive you? They probably should. They can forgive you. They don't have to keep living with you. If you would like them to keep living with you, you may want to look at how you express gratitude. And this works in any relationship. Gottman studies were in marriages, but this works in any relationship. So your children, your friends, your acquaintances, your coworkers, here's the biggie, your parents. If you can think about and express gratitude for your parents, you will begin to see in them things you've never seen before. And your relationship with them will be transformed. So gratitude will shift relationships as well. So, what good is gratitude? It shifts our focus of attention. It shifts our emotional states, and it shifts our relationships. This is difficult because our entire culture waits to react. But there are practices. How many people keep a gratitude journal? Anybody keep a gratitude journal? Good, good. It's a really good practice to do. I did it for years. I've kind of fallen away, I have to admit. But when I was keeping a gratitude journal, I was still a reactor, not a generator. So I would sit down and I would intellectually think about what should I be grateful for. Oh, well, I'm grateful for my house, and I'm grateful for my car, and I'm grateful for my daughter. And they were things that I intellectually thought I should be grateful for, but I never got in touch with the feeling. Now, every single day, I get in touch with the feeling of gratitude, and I don't think of a single object of it. Not a single object. I just get in touch with the feeling of gratitude. And here's the amazing thing. We had the pet blessing yesterday, and for those of you who are here, you saw my 3 little doggies. When I lay there in bed in that few moments before I get up, and I get in touch with the feeling of gratitude, it's amazing. All 3 dogs jump on me. Now, normally, 2 of them sleep with Steve, and only 1 of them sleeps with me, but when I am in the feeling of gratitude, all 3 of them like a magnet. Come on me. Think they're onto something? I think they are. Here's the big thing. When you are the generator, you're good, just like my dogs. Whatever it is that you want, when you are grateful for what you have now and take your attention away from what you want but don't have, take your attention off of it. Just ignore it. Know it will come, but find what you're grateful for now. You energize yourself, you magnetize yourself, and everything you want comes to you. But you're the generator, not the reactor. So, let's pray. So, how good it is to know that the only one present here right now is God. How good it is to breathe in to that space where we recognize the presence of God. And I invite each person here to take one moment to consciously court the feeling of gratitude. Take a moment to feel into that place where you absolutely know that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. And where you feel grateful for no apparent reason. And so as we court that feeling and become friends with that feeling of gratitude, I know for us that we extend that feeling of gratitude a little more each day. I know for each person here that we have the ability to feel into that place, to generate and project out that gratitude in line at the grocery store, at the stoplight, at work, at home, making dinner, walking a dog. Whatever else is happening in our life, we can hit the pause button on that and choose to feel good. Choose to feel grateful. Just for a moment. We can always go back to worrying after that. And so how good it is to know that that is the truth of who we are, that that gratitude is actually the very essence of our being, that anything that we feel that is not that is pinching us off from our source and pinching us away from the power within that does everything we need it to. How good it is to know that we have the secret to everything in our lives by just feeling that feeling of gratitude. And so I know for each person present here today that when we leave this space and we go back out into our lives, that we are able to master this practice, that we are able to get into that feeling place, to let go of anything that stands in the way. It can fall away on its own, easily and effortlessly, the more we court the presence of Thanksgiving. And so I know for each one here that we become generators. We become generators of that powerful, powerful emotion of gratitude. And as we do so, I know that everything we want in our lives is magnetized and drawn to us immediately. I know that we go forward, uplifted, inspired, and therefore inspiring. I accept that the rest of this day and this week is absolutely blessed because we have a new awareness, we have a new knowledge, and we can't unknow what we know. And so now that we know this secret, I know for every person that there is a lightness of being, a lightness of heart, that we leave here today and we express out into the world. And so for this, I am so grateful. I am so profoundly grateful for the consciousness of each person present, for how it shows up, for how we show up here on Sundays and in the world. We are profoundly blessed. I know that in every moment. I know that for each of us. And therefore, I am always thankful. And so from this open heart of gratitude, I just release my word. I don't look back because I know it's already done. I know all is well. And so it is. So if our ushers